Thanks for stopping by. Okay, so this is a weekly reading for the week of July 13th. But before we get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about the reading for last week and the energy of, if you remember, the meditation was about having to choose between two different paths and choosing with the heart. I don't know if or how that affected you. Please comment below if it did. I'll tell you that I certainly had a week of challenges and am faced with a very significant choice and not one I am wanting to make. I also wanted to address that, when we do spiritual work, any type of spiritual work, when we're walking a spiritual path, be that showing up on a channel like this, or seeking out other readers, or doing our own internal work, our trauma work, our own, following our own spiritual path, that a lot of what comes through, for example, what I said last week about following the heart, I just want to acknowledge how, while this is my path, I've chosen a spiritual path, I also want to acknowledge how difficult it is or can be to follow guidance that is provided to us, be it via tarot, for myself, I'm clairaudient, and so, the messages that we receive, however we may receive those from Spirit, are beautiful, and, try as I may, to keep my heart open at all times to those messages. It can be really difficult to effectuate that change for real in our lives. And that is something that I bumped up against this week and continue to bump up against. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, it isn't the spiritual path. I really want you to know that a spiritual path is nothing about unicorns and rainbows, right? This work is hard, and it can feel impossible at times to follow one's heart, especially given the current environment with which we live. This can be a time when we are encountering or forced to choose between things that don't feel like real choices, So I just wanted to put that out on the table and acknowledge it. This is not easy. And if you can't follow the messages that come through in any given week or moment of your life, that's okay. None of us can. This is a journey, right? Like any other. And sometimes we take a few steps forward, and sometimes we need to take some steps back. So that's the path, right? So for the week of July 13th, I did a meditation, and as soon as I closed my eyes for meditation, I swear every bird in my neighborhood showed up here. They already love to hang out on my fire escape, and I believe they're building a nest in some rafters above me. And I am blessed with some beautiful trees in the yard that they love to hang out in. And so I am serenaded a lot, which is really quite beautiful. But this morning, the moment I got into meditation about the week, they just started to sing and chirp their little hearts out. And what I heard was heart song. So it feels very much like we are having a continuation of last week. in that there are still choices that need to be made. Perhaps last week presented the choice. This week presents the decision. What are we going to do about that, right? And again, heart song. And I just, I fully acknowledge how difficult it is to follow one's heart and not have it feel frivolous and silly and not well thought out or well planned out. And in these very uncertain times, following the heart, not easy. Not easy. So let's see what the cards might have to offer us for the week of July 13th. I will say that it didn't feel quite as intense as last week, the energy within my meditation. It felt still fueled. It still felt like there was a bit of an urgency, but not quite heavy. It didn't feel quite as heavy. I'm not sure about that. But let's see what the cards might have to say to us. Okay. Angels, spirits, guides, energy for the week of July 13th for the collective, please. Energy for the week of July 13th for the collective. Spirit, angels, guides, any medicine you may have for us for the upcoming week, the week of July 13th. What do we need to know about the energy of the week of July 13th? So yeah, these birds, they like to come and sit. Wow. Okay. They like to come and sit out on my featherscape, and throughout the day, I see them sometimes just looking in at me. Sometimes with their little, they're building a nest, so they've got little straw and nest materials in their mouths and their beaks. They're pretty adorable. They make me happy. Okay, angel, spirit, guides. One last card for the week of July 13th. Angel, spirits, guides. Thank you. Okay. Wow. I can't even hang on to my cards today. Okay. First card up, we have Temperance. Major Arcana. Temperance is the energy of Sagittarius. Temperance is also, for me, a card of tapping into our divinity, tapping into our spiritual selves. This path I was talking about at the beginning, right, and how difficult it could be. But if you can see the card, you see around the head, there's this beautiful halo of divination. I see this card as above, so below. Tapping into our more knowing self, our spiritual self, our soul self. Not our human body, not the physical which we inhabit in order to be here. Temperance speaks more to our soul having come in physical form, but this part of us that is not of this world, but is here for us to provide us information about why we are really here, a path that we came here to actualize. And also, I feel after last week and coming into this week too, that Temperance may be here to remind you to ask Spirit when you feel lost, when it feels overwhelming, when faced with a choice that feels too big to make. too hard to make, when following the heart feels almost impossible, or at least it seems impossible, right? Um, ask your guides, ask your higher self this week. Try to tap in each day to, okay, where am I going? Spirit, what do I need to know in order to get there? This is tapping into temperance is especially important when there's fear. And I suspect if you are anything like me, there's a lot of fear involved right now in having to make a choice that feels like there's not enough information, there's not enough certainty on the other side of this choice. Oh, Jesus, what happens if I don't choose correctly? Right? Creating a lot of fear responses. When we are afraid, when we are faced with things that we don't know, can't understand the full impact of just yet, we tend to react from our defense mechanism, fight, flight, or freeze, right? And if you find yourself within one of those energies this week, tap into temperance. Tap into your soul purpose. Ask Spirit for guidance. The next 3 cards out are quite interesting. First up, we have the Knight of Wands, followed by, and I'll go through these one at a time, but followed by the Knight of Pentacles, followed by the Knight of Swords. 3 knights on the table, right? Coming one right after the other. So let's start with our first knight, Knight of Wands. So again, remember, knights move us. They are about movement, either physically moving us from one location to another, or moving us from one state of being to another, from one, maybe in this case, from one decision to another. Knight of Wands, a lot of people don't like the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands, if it's someone who shows up in your life, if it's an energy that shows up in your life, it can often be this energy of the person who just doesn't stick around, who's sort of in and out, who's in it for something and then out again. This energy can feel like it takes a whole lot more than it gives, okay? And this could be in relation to around any choice you feel you have to make, any kind of decisions that are coming up, and maybe you're in an environment of or engaged in an energy or with a person. Perhaps your decision is around a person who's in and out of your life, who when they're there feels fantastic and like, yeah, this is really good and this could really work, and then they're gone and it doesn't feel quite sustainable any longer. Okay, this can be very difficult energy to navigate, or a very difficult person to work with, because there's high levels of passion. This might be a job that is very passionate and in some ways fulfills you, and in other ways leaves you depleted completely. Followed by the Knight of Swords. Excuse me. Knight of Swords is very quick moving energy, very truthful energy. This is coming in, having to say something, and not, the Knight of Swords is not delicate, as you can see. Not delicate, doesn't really care too much about delivery of truth, but does care about saying his truth. And so perhaps, this decision is going to require a lot of, or perhaps we're going to be tempted to want to come in hot and fast. Okay, so maybe temperance is here to say, temper this a little bit, temper this energy a little bit with wanting to move hot and fast into a decision, being maybe angry that you have to even make this decision, if that's what it's about. And then we have last up the Knight of Pentacles, the slowest moving knight in the deck. This is someone who does not do anything hot and fast like these two guys. This is the energy of ensuring your own foundation before going off and doing anything else. This is somebody who has their own best interest at heart, and is building a stable foundation, has something stable to offer, perhaps. If this is your internal state, I don't know. If this is our internal state coming into this week, then I don't know. This is a rough one because we're all over the map, if you will. Our first, we're coming out with this energy of trying to maintain a spiritual place, a spiritual stance, a spiritual understanding, tapping into that place within us that knows, right? That understands and knows that our physicality, that our body is experiencing something in the physical plane that can be destabilizing and can be throwing us off a little bit. But if we tap into this, into our divine selves, then we stand on firmer ground. We can, the sun is in the background, right? We are in a place of divinity. We don't need to, this is almost the message of don't get too caught in the minutia, right, of this decision or whatever the week may bring. And then we have these three characters who are trying to move us through something through the week in a way that can feel a little bit crazy, right? Because there's this hot and fast, in and out. I'm not sure. Yes, I'm in. No, I'm not. Here I am. And then there's the energy of, but I need to speak my mind and my truth. And I want to do that as well. I've got a lot to say about this situation, this decision, whatever, this environment with which I'm in. And yet I need to cool my jets a little bit. I need to understand or evaluate where I am, and approach this from a place of groundedness. The other two, the Knight of Wands and the Knight of Swords, are not the most grounded or the most interested in stopping to think or, stopping themselves to evaluate where they are foundationally. This guy is. Okay. So there may be a battle of energy here. There may be something that the week brings, or maybe each day invites a different energy, and we are sort of battling all of these three out a little bit, followed by the Four of Cups. A pause. A pause, because all of this night energy is going to, without doubt, is going to stir up our emotional selves, our emotional state. We have 3 cups. There's another cup on offer that we are saying no to right now. This is emotional, and so because when the emotions get activated, it's really important that we take a step back and we don't act just yet, because we don't feel, and maybe we are right to feel, that we don't have all the information that we need. And so what is on offer this week is to take a little bit of a pause and maybe just get the emotional cups, get your emotional self rebalanced before trying to make or move in a direction, in any one direction, right? Followed by the Nine of Pentacles. The Nine of Pentacles is an independent energy. This is an independence, an energy of someone who's quite independent, quite abundant, quite sure of him or herself, who has worked very hard and built a firm foundation. And so this is the place of maybe, I feel like this is where we are already in some cases. And so there's a lot of back and forth here with all this night energy, but we are remembering, we come into the week needing to remember our spiritual selves, that we are spiritual beings, and that perhaps we are on better footing than we realize. Maybe that is the message here, that we are on a little bit better footing than we may realize. And all of this night activity, if it's internal, that's okay. You can feel pulled in many different directions this week. I am getting that sense that we may feel pulled in different directions. Stay, go, yes, no. And all of the uncertainty that this time is bringing up for us, or this decision, this path from last week that might still be here, and might still require a decision or some action. And so there can be all of this jumbled kind of foggy sort of not knowing which way. Yeah, I'm going to charge in, and then I'm going to speak my truth, and then I'm going to, take a step back. It's not feeling the most stable. Okay, this week, for sure. But it is beginning and ending in a place of remembering your path, remembering who you are, remembering that we are all divine beings, that our path is more spiritual than anything else, and that we are on pretty stable footing, even though it doesn't often appear that way. And it hasn't appeared that way for quite some time, right? The environmental climate is instability right now. It's not knowing. It's feeling as though there isn't much to count on. There's not much we can count on. This is being echoed week after week, and finding in the weekly weather tarot spreads that I've been doing, and in my own readings and in my own practice, in talking to people, talking to clients. There's a lot of instability or sense of instability. And so it seems that despite all of this very chaotic movement, back and forth, in and out, truth and speed and all of that, while that may be a part of our reality, this too is very much a part of our reality. To understand that we may be on firmer foundation than we think we are. We've worked very hard to get where we are. And whether this is actual coins, whether this is money in the bank, whether this is a material foundation you've built for yourself, or whether this is a foundation around lessons learned and getting clarity around who you are, it's firmer than you think it is. I think that's the message for the week. So as this week progresses, or when it ends, and I say this each time, but I think it's particularly important to come back to these readings, go back to those readings, other readings, other tarot readers that you may follow, other sources of support that you have in your life. Go back and and rewatch and get clearer and see how that there is a temptation, I think, to get really caught. Because my God, the energy, the pull is deep, to get caught in the scarcity mentality, to get caught in the fear. I know myself, I have been so caught in the fear. It's hard not to be. This is a fantastic reminder that we are in a much better place than we may think we are. If you can tap into these two energies this week and keep coming back to this, your soul song, maybe from the birds, and your foundation, how hard you've worked, how much you actually really do know spiritually that this is going to be okay. Okay, I'll end there. These are not easy weeks. So again, I encourage grounding exercises, staying as grounded as possible, staying in touch with people who feel like tribe, blocking out what feels like noise and pressure. This time can feel like a real pressure cooker. Trying to block that out as much as possible and engage in those practices that speak to anxiety, that keep the anxiety lower, right? Breathing and foundational practices, okay? All right, thanks for stopping by. If you haven't already subscribed, I would love it if you would do so. Hit the thumbs up button below so that YouTube will spread this message around. And I really thank you for your support and for stopping by. Have a great week. I'll see you next week.